Hola todos, bienvenidos. In this video I'm going to talk about school in Nicaragua. I want to go over just a few things that I know because it's been very interesting for me to learn about school in Nicaragua compared to what it's like in the US where I grew up. Now that it is September of 2020, it's been almost 6 years since my first time in Nicaragua, and over these past 6 years I've spent probably about a year of that time all spread out in Nicaragua. Soy Darlene, a Spanglish-speaking mama, and on my channel we speak Spanglish, anything Nicaragua, and life is a bicultural family. If you're interested in this type of content, consider subscribing, and let's get into the video. When do kids in Nicaragua usually start school? Typically, they are 4 or 5 years old, even less if they're gonna go to like a preschool. And the first chunk of school, which is basically like our elementary school, they call primaria, which is usually about 6 years, not including kindergarten or preschool. Primaria es gratis to attend, but kids or their families do have to pay for things like notebooks, pencils, erasers, their uniforms and shoes, and also sometimes lunch. They do say that primaria is required, but there are so many kids in Nicaragua that have to help their families earn a living so they don't end up attending school regularly. Las escuelas privadas tienen primaria, elementary, and secundaria, like high school, together like in one building but separated. But the public schools usually will have the primaria in one area and then secundaria in a completely different place, like another part of the city, for example. Secundaria is 5 or 6 years depending if you go to a private or a public school, and so you'll usually finish high school around 16 or 17 years old. Most schools also separate their day into what they call matutino, which is in the morning from like 7 to noon or 1-ish, and then the despertino, which is like 1 to 5 p.m. So normally the younger kids will attend school in the morning and the older kids in the evening. As far as getting to school, most kids do walk to school, but there are some people who have like a 15-passenger van type of thing, which they call a microbus, and parents will have to pay a monthly fee to that company or driver of that bus to go and pick up their kids for school and drop them off every day, or just pick them up or just drop them off. Back in the day, there used to be buses that were paid for by the school that would go pick up and drop off kids, but for some reason those are no longer a thing. The classes are split up somewhat to where you would have a different teacher for some different classes, but not 100% of the time, depending on what grade you're in and whether you go to a public or private school. But the majority of the teachers, they do actually teach a class in one school and then go to a different school and teach another class. Most teachers teach in 2 or more schools each day. El tiempo de vacaciones is almost always December through January, February. Of course, each school has their own exact dates, but that's generally how it is. And this would be considered their summer vacation because, of course, they are close to the equator, and November through April-ish is their dry season, or like summer, you could call it, which I have a video all about that here if you'd like to check out more about the climate in Nicaragua. So where I grew up in the US, we had our summer vacation from school from like June, July, and August, and then we started school again at the beginning of September. But for them it makes more sense to take like December and January off, and then they also get their Christmas holidays and all that throughout that time. And if you're wondering about homeschooling, which is very common now in the US, I have never heard of a Nicaraguan homeschooling their kids. It seems to me that if a kid can't make it to the actual school, they're probably working, so they're not able to receive an education in that way. Correct me if I'm wrong, or if you've ever heard of someone homeschooling their kids in Nicaragua. Me interesa mucho to know about that stuff. But up until now, the government in Nicaragua has not put any specific policies or guidelines in place of as far as like wearing masks in public or any of that. So in the public schools, people are going as normal. Although, as I mentioned in my August update, you can check that out here, there are private schools that have currently closed down because of current events. Hoy mi pregunta es, how was your school separated where you went as a kid? For mine, it was Kindergarten was separate in a whole different town actually, and then elementary was 1st through 5th grade, middle school was 6th through 8th grade, and high school was 9th through 12th. The elementary, middle, and high school were all together like one big building, but of course separated into different parts. Our buses picked up all kids throughout elementary school, but then once you hit 6th grade, if you lived within a mile of the school, you were on your own, which meant that I was walking most days to and from school, or biking if it was not snowy out. Yes, this video is kind of short and sweet and not very in-depth. If you are interested in more in-depth video, I have a sister-in-law who's actually a profesora in Nicaragua, so I'd love to talk to her about more if you want to know more. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the thumbs up if you did. Let me know in the comments if you learned anything or if you have any questions. Subscribe for more, share with someone you think might enjoy this video, and I'll see you next time. Gracias por ver. Bye.